Under federal law, marijuana is classified as a lethal substance with no currently accepted medicinal value. Despite many states legalizing it for medical and recreational purposes, the Drug Enforcement Administration still considers marijuana a Schedule I drug. That puts it on the same list as heroin, LSD, and ecstasy. A group of patients are now suing the Department of Justice to try to get marijuana off that list. They hope it will pave the way for legalization of marijuana across the country. The government is arguing that courts have already heard similar cases and rejected them. Joining me now from Charlotte, North Carolina, is Sebastien Cotte. Sebastien's son, Jagger, is one of the patients in the group that is suing the Department of Justice. Sebastien, thanks so much for joining us. Can you please tell us a little about your son's condition and what your argument is in this lawsuit?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much for having me. So my son's name is Jagger, and he has a very rare mitochondrial disease called Lee's disease. It's very progressive and a terminal disease with no cure. So Jagger, life expectancy for the kids that have Lee's disease, if they are diagnosed, he has a diagnostic before the age of 2, 95% of them do not make it past 4. So right before his 4th birthday, we decided to take Jagger to Colorado because we live in Georgia, and medical cannabis was illegal at the time in Georgia. So we took Jagger to Colorado and became medical refugee, and we put Jagger on medical cannabis. Right away, we saw great improvement. He starts smiling again, things he hasn't done for years. His seizures went down, his pain went down, and we were able to take him off some of his very strong medication like morphine and Oxycontin. And after a year in Colorado, we moved back to Georgia because we were able to pass a bill in Georgia in the meantime. And Jagger, a few months ago, just turned 8. So now he's twice his life expectancy. He passed his life expectancy by 4 years now.
Wow, incredible.
In great part because of medical cannabis.
Well, where does the lawsuit currently stand, and how would your son and other patients benefit from marijuana being taken off the Schedule I list?
So the lawsuit, we just went to New York last week, and we went to the Second Circuit Court of Appeal, and we did an appeal. So now we're waiting to hear back. Either they're going to agree with the government that the lawsuit should not be going forward, or they're going to send it back to the lower federal district court in Manhattan, and we actually will go to trial, which is what we're hoping for. The lawsuit, the way the lawsuit will help is by taking cannabis off of Schedule I, therefore making it more accessible for patients like Jagger. Jagger right now cannot travel because what he has is in Georgia, he has a right to have possession of cannabis oil, but he cannot take it out of the state. For example, I cannot go to Charlotte, where I am today, on a trip. He could not come with me because he would be illegal, and if we get caught with his oil, I could end up in jail, and Jagger could be taken by child services. So Jagger cannot travel anywhere at all around the country because he cannot take his cannabis anywhere with him. And there are thousands and thousands of kids like that and patients like that cannot travel, or that live in states where they can't even have access to cannabis in the first place unless they go into the black market, which is obviously very unsafe and very dangerous. So if we win this lawsuit, it will take cannabis out of Schedule I, and it will just make it much more accessible for the patients all over the country.
Well, why do you believe the federal government is so hesitant about making a change?
Well, there's a big stigma with cannabis. There's a lot of misinformation that's been there for many years, and the government is not willing and ready. But the government is being a little bit hypocritical in this entire thing because just a few weeks ago, the FDA approved cannabis-derived medication as a Schedule V medication to treat seizures. The government also owns several patents on cannabis, including one saying that cannabis is a neuroprotectant and antioxidant and is good for your brain. It can help with brain issues. So the government is doing all that, and at the same time, they're keeping it in Schedule I, saying he has no medical purposes and is highly addictive, which we know now it's not true at all. So we are just trying. We have the fact, we have the science behind us to show that we are right, and cannabis should be an option for people that want to try it.
Well, as you mentioned, the New York City appeals hearing was just last week, and depending on the judge's decision, the next appeal could be at the Supreme Court level. What are you looking forward to most if that's the case?
Going to the Supreme Court would obviously be a very big deal, but Supreme Court don't take a lot of the cases. So if we were to be taken, if the Supreme Court agreed to hear our case, that would obviously be very big. But what we're looking forward to is either going to the Supreme Court or the lower court. We just want a chance to prove and to show that cannabis has medical property and cannabis can help people patients and kids like Jagger.
Yeah, it was remarkable to hear about your son's progress. Sebastien Cotte, thanks so much for sharing your story with us.
Thank you very much.